Mobile One.
Being a mechanic can be tricky. There's always new technology and things coming out, and then you always see problems that are just a little bit different than some of the other ones. By and large, most things you can figure out and give somebody a good idea of what to expect before tearing it down. On this particular case, this clutch had an issue in that the clutch pedal kept getting harder and harder to push. It still worked, but it was really hard to push, and then sometimes it would just totally fail and you wouldn't be able to get it to work at all. Another thing that was interesting is when you push the clutch pedal down, it would shake your foot like this. This is some of the clutch pilot tools that I've saved from clutch jobs I've had. It looks like a big caterpillar. It's kind of fun. And you can actually unbuckle it. And in theory, if I'm missing one, I'll for sure have the one that I need because I work on just about everything. The one that I'm using right now is this one for replacing the clutch in a 94 4Runner. You've got your pivot bolt or your fulcrum bolt that bolts into the bell housing of the transmission. It goes in this way. This is a plastic mock-up. I call it a pilot tool because it goes into the pilot bearing. The pilot bearing supports the weight of the input shaft of the transmission. It just makes the bearings that hold that inside the transmission last longer because it's being supported on both ends. This goes into the end of the crankshaft on this particular vehicle. Some of them will go in the flywheel. The flywheel is what you see here on the outside of the way that it works. It's like an Oreo cookie is what I compare it to. You've got this plate down here on the left side, and then you've got this plate that is the flywheel on the other side. This is a ring gear for your starter to turn the crankshaft because this bolts directly to the back of the crankshaft. You'll notice that these are not touching except by the alignment dowels. When you bolt this down and put bolts in all these holes, these will touch together, and as you draw it tight, as you put it on, you'll notice that these are kind of conical facing out this way. These will all kind of flatten down. The more that you push on these levers, the more it pulls this back. This is actually the spring. On some older clutches, like on an old F350 from the 80s, what I used to see is a whole bunch of springs all the way around the outside. It was really easy to see that the springs were pushing the pressure plate, which is this is called the pressure plate, but technically that's the plate right there. Let's open it up and give you a look. This plate sandwiches this brake pad material, friction material kind of stuff between the flywheel and the pressure plate. So when these are sandwiched together, remember how they weren't touching? When you bolt them together, it smashes that with that spring pressure from these springs here so hard that this can't move. And that pilot tool that was a mock-up of the input shaft, that's all attached, see? So if this can move freely, then the transmission is not connected to the crankshaft. When you let go of the clutch pedal, this locks down on that and holds it, and it turns as one piece, as one big piece. It's like the direct link. That's why manual transmissions historically have gotten such good fuel economy. In modern cars and on automatic cars, you've got torque converters. I'm not going to go off too much on that, but it's basically two pinwheels, one driven and one receiving or being blown on to link up. But now we have locking torque converters so that they work like this so you can get the same fuel economy. You talked about these levers going down. What we do to lever or pull that plate against the spring pressure up away is we have a throwout bearing. Now if we take a ring and push down on all these levers at the same time, it's just going to grind and grind a hole in them. It'll just, right? That's why we have a throwout bearing. It load bears the weight of all that pressure. Because bear in mind, this is a fulcrum and a lever, so a mechanical advantage so that we can push extra hard so it's not as hard to push with your foot. It pushes that down and it causes that plate, say that this is the clutch disc, right? It causes it to let go of it so it can move freely. When you let off the pedal, this comes back up off those levers and those springs lock it down really tight to where, it just turns as one. When you push on the clutch pedal, this pushes down on these levers. When you push on these levers, it pushes that back away from it and it can rotate freely and be loose. Also, if you're in neutral, then it's all locked up, but then this isn't connected to anything else and it can just move freely. All right, smart people, now that you know all about how a clutch works, let's diagnose one, shall we? So now, given what we know about how a clutch works, why is it that when we push on the pedal, it goes down really fast and easy and then gets really stupid hard and then only works at the very bottom? That doesn't make any sense. We've got a fulcrum, we've got a hydraulic master cylinder and slave cylinder, so why does the pedal feel so funny and why is it shaking like it is? Comment below what parts you think failed. I've pulled back the boot so you can see the end of the fork here. This is what it's doing when you push a clutch. It goes fast, and then that last little bit's where the action is. This is what a normal clutch fork should look like. This is what it looked like when I was done with it. It doesn't even come close to touching that outside perimeter of the opening anymore. That's how it should work. In Wednesday's video and this one I've mentioned a slave cylinder. That's it right there. So this is the flywheel and pressure plate and the discs in there. You can see all the chew marks on the fingers here. When I look at the pressure plate and focus on that, you can see where the throwout bearing's kind of worn into it. That's a good indicator that the throwout bearing's bad. This is that throwout bearing, and when I move it, you can hear how dry it is. It's really dry. That's what's causing all the shaking, is that bearing. Clutch fork. You can see that the fulcrum bolt, it's totally worn through. There's been no lubrication on it. And so not only is it not well secured, I mean it's still kinda, but basically this little window here was working as a fulcrum. This should never touch or bottom out like that. And it was replacing that fulcrum. And instead of multiplying like a fulcrum's supposed to, because the fulcrum was so far back over here, it was actually making it harder to push than what it would be if you were to actually push the bearing with your foot from behind. Not that that's possible unless you had a hole in your foot, but anyway, really interesting failure on this thing. It was really intermittent because it would be here sometimes and it would work like new, and then, you know, it would just basically alternate. It's really interesting. Also, when you push down on the clutch, your foot would shake because this bearing is so bad. I think it was a bearing. It could also be a warped flywheel, or it could be something to do with the pressure plate, or it could be the way that the wear was on the pressure plate levers or fingers. On this vehicle, I'm going to put a new rear main seal in it. You can see that there's all kinds of oil leaking in here. The oil leak on this is in particular the input shaft seal on this transmission. So this little plate, all these bolts around the outside there, that all has to come off, and then there'll be a seal behind that. The seal, or the leak, is actually between that little collar right here and the input shaft. When you turn the input shaft, see how the part just inboard from it isn't moving? That's what the throwout bearing rides on. Here's the throwout bearing. Again, it's just dry and shot and wobbly. And you should be able to push this one way or the other way to get it to come off the fulcrum bolt. There we go. I'll pull that out. I got a brand new one from the dealership I'm really excited about. And then you can see this isn't too worn out, but the seal is actually up in here, so we need to pull that plate off and then we'll be able to get to that. This fulcrum bolt is pretty worn. I mean, you can see the wear on it, so we got a new one, but it's even not as bad as I thought it was. But if we put the new fork on an old bolt, there's a good chance that it could cause premature wear. So getting the new ones that work well together, it should help a lot. You don't recognize this until you flip it this way. This is actually what that other bearing was riding on, the throwout bearing. You had an input shaft that was sticking out like this. The seal for that is on the inside. This is my favorite tool in the world for this. It's like a seal puller and a pry bar and all these tools into one. So you get up behind it like that, turn it this way for leverage, ground it on the table. Bam, it's out. So the first thing I like to do, there's two different seals that it could be for this particular model. Make sure that they are the same. This is not, it's not this one. This is how you go from being able to get something done this evening and being dead in the water. There was leakage, and I couldn't tell where the leakage was coming from, if it was this orange gasket maker that would broke down and was leaking, or if it was the seal in there. So anyway, I'm gonna replace both. Get in here, pull out the seal. This is the 105 transmission. There's like a 53, 50, and whatever else. They're all the same for the input shaft seal. And then there's the 105F and the 105. This happens to be of that variety. If you look at the seal here, it says BH2844E. I ordered a new one in, waited forever, it got lost, it was a huge hassle. BH2844E, we've got a match. So dealer doesn't have it, can't get it. It's a 94, go figure. They're only required to carry stuff about 10 years out. But they did have the shift fork, so I was really lucky there. Local parts houses, they didn't have it. So this is like really rare. I have to do this right. I can't finish a job without it. What I do is I just take them and just push them in uniformly. I use 2 thumbs, and it's really hard to screw it up if you do it this way. If you use a screwdriver or a socket, that can help. This thing's going in really tight compared to this one. This one doesn't seem that bad. It's still somewhat pliable. The spring on it's okay. This is a lot more firm. You can use the backside handle of these things sometimes. Just try to push it and get it to where the back side of it is flush. There we go. I'll also take my finger and get a little bit of grease and put it in there so that it doesn't burn up on assembly. Upon closer inspection, I noticed that this needed to be recessed just a little bit. There's a taper there. So I went ahead and tapped it in by using a punch like this and just kind of going around really slow and gentle. And just kind of spiral working it down like a piston ring or something onto a piston. Use a little auto body hammer, take it slow. I just say you gotta be really careful. I messed this one up here when I tried to use a different punch from above to get it flush, and it slipped because I wasn't getting good purchase. You can see why I had something in the way there that caused that to kind of happen. See my little tap marks all the way around. Main thing when you're driving seals is that they're in the right place so that you don't have, because this actually retains a bearing, and the bearing, as I screw this on, it's going to push it in flat and level if it needs to anymore. But it's better to just get that ahead of time. This isn't going to hurt anything. It's not a sealing surface. So I've got a thin layer of import gray. I've got a little grease on the seal. This thing is ready to go on. When it comes to getting the pilot bearing out, there's a special tool that you use on a slide hammer. This one was too big. This was part of a 3-jaw puller for pulling bigger stuff on the outside like gears and whatnot. So I ground off the sides so it'll fit through the hole, at which point it can hook in and I can really grab hold of this thing. I can pull with a tremendous amount of force as long as I'm locked in. Like this, it'll pull right out. But if you lock up like that and pull it out, it gets them out pretty good. With the old one out, when you go to put the new one in, you want to drive it in by the outer race. The friction where it's fit is to the outside, so you want to be driving the outer race. If you do the inner race, you can damage a bearing races. So a 22mm socket of my socket set is what fits that, and so I'll drive it in using that. If you use one that's a little bit bigger that hangs over on the edge, that's even better because it'll max out on the outer shelf. That'll ensure that it's in really perpendicular, really straight. When you're done and you've got it in, it should look like that. If you stick out too far or if you're crooked, the input shaft's not going to want to go in there. You'll be wrestling a big couple 100-pound transmission. It'll just fight you and it won't go in. Better to just tune it and get it just right now, save you later. I've got this in there just by hand tightening it, so there's still a gap all the way around. If you look underneath it here, you can see that they're not touching. And if I take the pilot tool and put it in there, it just goes straight in. It doesn't really crash into the pilot bearing or anything. So this is how I mostly line it up, is I eyeball it, just make sure things are centered. If something's off center, you can tell pretty quickly that something's not right. You just make sure that you have an even space all the way around. Okay, so the next thing I wanted to show you is that when we look at this, you can see that the levers kind of go down. The more that you smash it in there, the more it pushes outward away from the engine, that pressure plate. And inversely, the more that you bolt the thing down, it pushes back up on the pressure plate and the levers go down. Same thing, just different force input. So I don't do it all at once because that's a lot for a bolt to take. So you just kind of go around. And you'll notice that there's 2 here, and then 2 here, and 2 there. So I just kind of treat it like one. So these kind of count as 1/3, and the other, and so on. Then I go back and tighten them by hand. When you're tightening them by hand, as you tighten, it'll turn the whole thing, especially if you're straight out to it. But if it's a tangent line, you know, either on this side or on this side, tightening away from the clutch assembly, then it does fine. Defeating your torque, if you go across the inside of it, that kind of works too, but that'll rotate it. Tricks of the trade. Look how flat the surface is. It's just a little hill. It used to be a real peak, and now with it bolted down and there's no gap right here, you can see how flat the fingers get. You'll also notice there's a film of grease around the outside so that those little pins can get in. Because this is so heavy, the friction on the edges of it can be pretty intense. Sometimes you got to twist it from midnight to a minute or 2 or even 15 minutes, you know, on a clock face. And in order to do that, you got to have a little bit of lube on it. It makes all the difference. Well, this one's done. You know what that means. Time to put another one on the Caterpillar. I've done a number of clutches and I've diagnosed a lot of clutches as part of doing that. And this one actually had a clutch fork fail because the guy drove it too good. Too good. So a lot of these clutches that you see here are from people that didn't know how to drive a clutch, or it was a car that just had a lot of miles or a lot of city driving. If you want your clutch to last a really long time, drive on the freeway, have most of the time the clutch pedal up. Basically, the less times you push the clutch, I mean, it's almost like, you know, like you find out how many cents per mile it costs to drive your car or whatever. You can figure into that how many clutch pedal presses that you have. Replacing a clutch can be an expensive job. Basically, the less you push on the clutch, the less you rest your foot on the clutch, the more you just leave that thing in the up position, the longer it lasts. There are a number of reasons for that, but this guy did such a good job at it that the actual clutch fork and the pivot failed because it never got lubricated, because the clutch never got replaced for 234,000 miles. This is with the new clutch. Go ahead and lift your foot off and push it down. Any difference?
It's a lot smoother.
You don't have to push as hard either. It's fired up. Remember last time I would shake your foot? Alright, go ahead and let the clutch up. And just rest your foot on it and see if it shakes your foot. Push a little harder. Just smooth, huh? So this is a paramotor. I'm just flying around behind the rocks. It's off-road trail in Moab, Utah. This is one of the fun things I like to do. I was just going to ask you guys what you thought of the video. If you felt that this was a good format, if I ought to film more videos this way. Just encourage you to share it if you did like it. You can see more videos like this. I've been doing videos like this since 2008 in January. So past 10 years, and I've got over 1,000 videos up. You can check out the channel and see what you think. I'm open to suggestions. If you have any, leave them in the comments below. If you'd like to subscribe, just click subscribe and the little bell and you'll be notified. I post every week. But thanks for joining me, and here's a few videos that I've done on clutches and some of my recent stuff. You can click on those and check them out if you like. Cheers.